And we're back. Did I say that twice? Probably. Let me try it one more time. And we're back. The weirdness from the orange ape, of course, gets weirder every day as he spirals into this singular sort of insanity that now infests and infects the office of the presidency of the United States and the people around him, and his further destruction of the Republican Party. It's totally gone. I think that's eminently evident. There is no longer a Republican Party. Perhaps it can reconstitute itself under a different name, but the current Republican Party is the American Fascist Party. And I know what I shared with you yesterday, that Noam Chomsky says Trump is too stupid to be a real fascist, and that in a fascist state, the government runs business, but in the United States, business runs government, and so on and so forth. So a differing opinion. I say that Trump is an incipient fascist, and I will concede, if not that, just a flat-out bloated, filthy, brain-dead dictator. I can accept that. I mean, I can accept that definition. I'll never accept it as being the leadership of the country that I live in. But now, the ape has come up with, we've been talking about this. I remember saying this about 2.5, 3 years ago, shortly after he first revealed himself in the office of the presidency. He'd revealed himself many times as a civilian because of his lies, his fraud, his deceptions, his immorality, his lack of any kind of ethical center, yada, 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 yada. But it was after he became president, about 6 months, when it occurred to me, and probably to a lot of us, that this rotten son of a bitch would never give up the presidency until they had to carry him out, one way or the other. Either carry him out under arrest or carry him out on a stretcher. But he was not going to leave. It became very evident that Trump is such a psychopath that he's going to do anything he can to retain the presidency. And I think that should be just totally, eminently clear to everybody in this country. The people who support this ape will celebrate that idea. They're very happy to have a bully like Trump, a bloated, womanizing, filthy, dirty dictator. I mean, some people love that, apparently. And you know what really scares the hell out of me is it seems like I have seen an awful lot of video and film and still photos of women who support this monster. Not good. Not good at all. But he's trailing badly in the polls all over the country. And he has suggested several times now, as he did during the 2016 election, that the election coming up this November would be, quote, the most inaccurate and fraudulent in history. Yeah. If he's not reelected. Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the majority leader in the Senate, didn't answer questions about Trump's tweet as McConnell, walked onto the Senate floor this morning, according to the New York Times. And as we all pretty much know now, since the pandemic began, Democrats, this is when Democrats started fearing that the Orange Ape would try to cancel or postpone November's general election. And it makes me wonder, now, come on, Democratic Party leadership, surely to God, you've been talking about this for the same 3 years that I have. Come on. I'm just a podcaster. You folks are front and center. You're on the front line supposedly, of defending and governing America. You know about this monster. So what do you mean it has to do with the pandemic? That's bullshit, and you know it, Democratic leadership. Even you, Miss Pelosi, you know it. You run the House. You know what's going on. Today, for the first time, the Orange Ape, in a tweet, suggested that the presidential vote be delayed, quote, until people can properly, securely, and safely vote, end quote. Can you imagine? That sounds like something the Nazi Jew Stephen Miller wrote for him. Oh, watch that Stephen Miller. Now, I think we all understand at this point, or we should understand, that the President of the United States cannot cancel a presidential election. He cannot do it. Of course, I should add, legally. But legally, schmegally, that means nothing to Trump. Trump doesn't abide by rules that are legal. He doesn't abide by rules that are illegal. He makes up his own shit as he goes along, most of which is garbage. But even for the ape, as much as he's proven himself to be absolutely the worst president ever to occupy the Oval Office, and as he's proved himself to be the kind of human being that you want to cross the street if you see him approaching, you want to move to a different neighborhood if you see moving vans moving this son of a bitch in. Donald Trump is a degenerate, dangerous, violent human being. The sort anyone with an ounce of common sense would want to and would succeed in avoiding. But even for Trump, even for the ape, suggesting a delay in the election is, by any measurement, an extraordinary breach of presidential, the Times calls it decorum. Okay. And it will increase the chances that the ape and his core supporters will not accept the legitimacy of the election when the ape loses to Joe Biden. Okay. That's another thing that I've talked about extensively. That is probably true, that his core supporters will not accept the decision. And at that point, I would fully expect, this is a scenario I see, and I'm sorry, I cannot move past this. I can see these knuckle-dragging, bloated pigs armed with AR-15s and all their phony shit-ass camo made-up little uniforms on, their costumes. I can see them coming down from wherever these animals live to protect the President of the United States, Donald Trump, who is no longer the president. Okay, I can see that happening. And in that process, I can see some of these gunzels, these lard-ass idiots, hurting people, maybe killing a few people who would have the temerity to resist this kind of a fascist takeover. But then there's another vision that I see, and that is the United States military, each one of whom has been sworn to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, suiting up, arming up, locking and loading, and then removing this militia vermin from the United States forever. Whether that means gunfire or arresting them or finding the nearest sewer and pushing them all in, that's up to the military. That's up to the commanders. That's up to the people who make these kinds of decisions. So I see a two-step process here. The thugs and bums and losers who support this filth, this dictator, making a big show of coming to the rescue of the glorious God-chosen Donald Trump. And then I can see the United States military coming to the defense of the United States Constitution. So I've said this several times, and I know I don't need to say it, but what the hell? We have to be prepared. Those of us who respect this country's documents, those of us who want to do what John Lewis said, and to try to work our way to that community that he's always spoken of, based on respect and love and equal protection and equal justice under the law. We've got to keep moving in that direction and removing this horrible man, Donald Trump, is part of that process. So people like you and me, or you and I, and millions of us, tens of millions of us, have got to be prepared for what's coming. We have to be prepared for what's coming. In whatever manner you decide is the proper preparation. Some people are going to make sure that they have a good, secure location where they have laid in some supplies in anticipation of the kind of violence that could erupt in this country when the ape says he's not leaving. Some of us may decide to just get out of Dodge for a while, although that's getting harder and harder to do, given the restrictions put on Americans. The rest of the world doesn't want us now, or don't want us. They don't. Who can blame them? And then there's another option, and that's the people who have decided that defending the country by force of arms is worth it. That making sure that they are not going to be cowed by a bunch of geeks in bullshit camouflage uniforms. They're not going to be cowed into submission, that they will, in fact, use whatever means necessary to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States. Do you feel that way? There's three camps. There might be a fourth and a fifth and a sixth. And everybody has to make that decision individually. But you and I and millions of us must be prepared. Must be prepared. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to The Ranting with the audio podcast, or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.